The history of gay men is very fascinating. There used to be a sailors colony in Mumbai, wherein sailors used to come, and the gay men used to also go, so that because they were sailing 6 months on the sea and they were looking for a pleasure, and here is the community used to meet them, and then there used to be a get together of community. I think the homophobia of Bharat is very different than the homophobia of the rest of the world. I find homophobia of Bharat as a homophobia of ignorance and not homophobia of hate. Homosexuality, समलैंगिकता, ये प्राकृतिक है. जब मैं कहता हूँ प्राकृतिक है, इसका अर्थ है ये केवल मनुष्य में नहीं, बट 750 से ज़्यादा तरह के प्राणियों में पाई जाती है. मनुष्य उसमें एक है.
Namaskar, I'm glad to be in conversation with Ankit Bhuptani. Not now. Ankit works on a bunch of things, including geoeconomics and geopolitics, but primarily his journey has been particularly remarkable for what he's been doing in his world of activism. You may or may not like the word.
Right.
For the LGBTQ community. I'm glad to be having this conversation with you. There are a bunch of points that we've already discussed, although this is very impromptu, but I'm glad to be doing this. How have you been? How's the day been? I hear for the last 2-3 days you've been in Delhi.
Yes, it's been fantastic. I love Delhi so much because I get to meet interesting people like you and have this fascinating conversation sometime off the camera and sometime on the camera. So I am fabulous.
So Delhi is better than Mumbai? Say yes.
Delhi men are better than Mumbai until they open their mouth.
Great. Ankit, what do you do beyond activism first? Then we jump into the LGBTQIA, the cause that you've taken up personally, because you work very closely with, you're trying to bring parallels between the queer and Hindu community.
Right.
Draw parallels and of course, find points of convergence.
All right. So my work essentially is about work of inclusion from the Bharat narrative. If I want to describe everything which I do, right? I do so many things, but everything can be described in this one statement, that work of inclusion with the Bharat story. Why I do that is that I am an LGBT rights activist, although I do not like the word activism. The reason is that it's quite a left-leaning word which looks at the world from a binary of oppressed and oppressor. And I do not see the world in the binary of oppressed and oppressor, but that's a different philosophical discussion to have some other time. But for this particular conversation, I do work as an activist, as people like to call me and identify myself as, but which is also not your typical activism. Right? I am not the one who would be standing out your office if you're a policymaker and protest against you and demanding my rights with hi, ho, ho, homophobia got to go. But what I would do is I would request an appointment with you and have a conversation and dialogue and find a middle ground in which it's give and take and there would be a tangible positive change for community and leading towards inclusion. Right? So that was what my approach has been. So that kind of an activist I am. So this morning I was at Ministry of Social Justice and Welfare talking about LGBT rights, wherein if you will see most of my fellow community members would be just doing protest against the Modi government, forgetting that most of the rights we as LGBTQIA plus community are having in Bharat today has happened after 2014, by courts or outside, right? So that is one part. The second part of what I do in the larger narrative of inclusion with an Indian story is that I also talk about inclusion of political diversity within LGBT community. So I fight homophobia in a larger society, especially the non-left ecosystem, and I fight Hindu phobia within the LGBT community. So that's what my work of inclusion using Bharat story.
But compared to left, or people on the left side of the political spectrum and the right side of the political spectrum, who do you think are in real terms are perhaps less homophobic?
See, I think the homophobia of Bharat is very different than the homophobia of the rest of the world. I find homophobia of Bharat as a homophobia of ignorance and not homophobia of hate. Let's understand that a little bit. Okay, let's double click on that. When I say ignorance, that means something is there which I do not know. I discover it for the very first time, and it's very weird and unique, which I did not know earlier. That's why I'm afraid of it, and that's ignorance. I need knowledge, proper knowledge to make a judgment of. I have yet not reached to a stage of judgment. Wherein homophobia of hate is something wherein I know this what it is, and after making my conscious decision to reject it, leading towards the hate. Most of Bharat's homophobia is not of that hate, but it is of ignorance. Example, my mother. My mother, before I came out, knew only three things, which is a male, female, and somebody who claps on the signal, ask for money, the Hijra Sampradaya, the Hijras, right? This whole concept of somebody who is a biologically male, consider himself to be a man, and physically and emotionally interested in men. The concept of gay was completely alien to her, right? So if she rejects the concept of homosexuality before understanding this, कि आपका बेटा gay है, तो उसका अर्थ ही उसको नहीं पता है, तो that homophobia of rejection is a homophobia of ignorance and not homophobia of hate. So that's, now to answer your question, where do I find more homophobia? Unfortunately, because of lack of knowledge. And second thing, because of the wrong portrayal of LGBT community, a particular kind of narrative being projected to larger society, I find much more homophobia in the right-leaning, non-left ecosystem than the left ecosystem. Because left ecosystem is already aware of the human rights conversation. They are super good in terms of finding solidarity with other marginalized community to come together for a short-term or a long-term political gain, right? So they tend to have less of a homophobia, at least on a face value.
But in terms of, and what you do with the Hindu Queer Alliance, have I named the organization right?
Yes.
So what you do with Hindu Queer Alliance, are you trying to find roots of, queers or roots of or that mentality or that mindset or that's supportive of that mindset, the thought process in the Hindu faith historically? Or are you trying to, as an organization, trying to ensure that these people, or there is some convergence in these two thought processes?
Both, right? So there are people who are looking for answer from their faith perspective. They're looking that does Hinduism accept me as homosexual?
Does it?
There are people, especially people looking for answers to give back to their parents and their grandparents and their extended
family. But does the Hindu faith, what does the Hindu faith and its philosophical systems say about queers?
Hinduism has always talked about third identity, right? So if you see, very basic, if you see ragas, so there are male ragas, female ragas, napunsaka ragas, right? Now napunsaka word, generally we think that as somebody who is trans or hijra or napunsaka, but the word napunsaka is that who is not man or not fixed in the identity of man. Is it man enough? A question mark, right? Or a female enough? Question mark. So there is always room for diversity. We don't have the concept of the book, the prophet, the commandment and the promised land. Because we have absence of the, we have so much of diversity, right? Our Vedas, Naradiya Suktas talk about, does not even define the God, right? This, that, what, everything in between. So this comfort with diversity makes a space for different type of people to exist. I'll give you a small example. When I was small, my mom used to take me to a local Shiva temple, and she will tell me to do a particular ritual which most of us would be doing, and that is pradakshina. And I'll ask mom that, Mummy, why do we do it? Apna shu kaam kariye chiye, Gujarati. And she will give me the whatever answer she knew best as per her ability. But when I grew up and when I studied, and as Hinduism doesn't have the answer, one of the answer I found was very beautiful, and that is, when we do pradakshina, the deity is at the center and we circumambulate the deity. That means if I'm standing at point A and I look at the deity, I do the darshan of the deity, and somebody asks me how does the deity look, I will give them description from my vantage point of view. If somebody is standing at point B, which is completely opposite, and says that describes the deity, would be completely different than what I'm seeing. And then how silly it is for both of us to fight, saying that, no, my description says I am seeing the deity, wherein the person standing at point B giving completely opposite, wherein both of them are true. And how many point of view can there be on a circle? Infinite. This ability to have multiple point of view, multiple darshan, the beautiful English translation of darshan I find is the world view, right? The different, accommodating different world view which is infinite in the same space at the same time. That is what the Bharatiya Tattva Darshan gives us. And with this larger perspective, I find that there isn't a space for queer identity from our Puranas, from art, culture and heritage. If not acceptance, there is an acknowledgement. Jain Darshan beautifully talks about it. It says that there is something called as Dravya Sharira, physical body. There is something called as Bhava Sharira, mental body. And these are two different identities, right? So I could have a physical body of a man, but a Bhava Sharira of a female. In my research on queer identities in Hinduism, I have come across around 67 Sanskrit terminologies. Sometime in joke I just say 69, but I'm yet to find 2 more. But 67 Sanskrit terminologies which talks about diverse gender identity, orientation and expression. Not all of them are positive. Many of them were created for the reason that these identities should not be in the hermit traditions. Right? From that perspective, some of them are quite derogatory in today's politically evolved conversation. Right? But it is acknowledged. So that acknowledgement gives me hope. And at least, if nothing, nowhere in the history of this civilization, whether it is Hinduism, Jainism, Sikhism, Buddhism, or any of the folk tradition, we were told that we deserve to be stoned to death, as some of the other faith in our neighborhood and beyond told homosexual to be treated as.
Fair point. Now, having understood a bit of what you do, how's this journey been for you?
Well, it has been difficult at the start, at the stage when I was discovering myself, and I'm deliberately using the word discover, because when we use the discover, that means that's something which is there and you discover it at a particular time, right? So homosexuality was always there in me, but I did not know what that was. Forget about that. I studied in a Gujarati medium school, so my access to these English terminologies or even Hindi terminologies in that were very limited. The very first time somebody called me the word gay when I was in 11th standard in my college, right? And me being a good student, and I'm talking about pre-internet era. I'm 33 by the way, so just in case people do not know, right? So that was a pre-internet era. I come from a low middle class, so access to internet was very, very limited. For anything I need to know, I need to go to the library, like a old-fashioned person. So I ran to the library of a college, found out old English Oxford dictionary, and tried to find the word gay, and I found the meaning. It had 2 meanings. 1, somebody who is super happy, and 2, somebody who is homosexual, interested in same gender relationship. And I'm like, maybe I'm both, and that has been true till now. Right? So that's how I discovered the term gay. The reason I share this is that many people have this myth that these people turn gay because of the so much of media influence. Forget about that. I had no idea about what sex is, and I look back at my life when I was young. I had attraction towards same gender. I could not describe it. I could not understand it myself what that was. What Savarya song of that actor, I forget his name, but that shirtless song in his towel was fascinating for me. When I used to go to my mama's home, and they used to have cable TV, and there the entry of Mihir in the formal dress entering from his car used to, my God, wow. I could not understand why that wow was happening not towards any other character but Mihir alone. Right? So, homosexuality existed. I discovered it at the age of 17 when I was in college. Sorry for a long answer.
Then how, right after that, do you think the society was open to have this conversation or open to accept your immediate community? क्योंकि असली challenge तो यही हो जाता है, I'm presuming, because I have no clue. But just gauging and getting a sense of, and just by being human, थोड़ा उस दर्द का मेरे को एहसास हो सकता है. तो मैं जानना ये चाह रहा हूँ कि क्या समाज आपको लगता है उस दौर में रेडी था? क्या समाज आज रेडी है?
मैंने कहानी बहुत अच्छी सुनी है, सच झूठ पता नहीं, लेकिन कहानी का जो मैसेज है ना बहुत ही सुंदर है। ये है कि जब भी ब्रिटिश अफ्रीका देश के ऊपर राज्य करते थे तो वहाँ से बहुत सारा जो खजाना है, उनका जो मिनरल्स है, वो सब लेके जाते थे। उसके साथ साथ बहुत सारे लोग जो है उनको गुलाम बना के भी लेके जाते थे। अब वो जो शिप भर के जाता था, इतने सारे लोग उसमें बहुत ही अनकंफर्टेबल सिचुएशन में जैसे कि प्राणियों की तरह भर के जा रहे। अब 2-3 महीने का समय लग जाता था अफ्रीका से ब्रिटेन पहुँचते पहुँचते, और ऐसी परिस्थिति में कई लोग मर भी जाते थे यात्रा के दौरान। तो अब वो मृत शरीर का क्या ही करेंगे, वो तो उनके लिए एक गुलाम के तौर पे थे। तो वो उनको जो है वो पानी में फेंक देते थे। अब पानी में फेंक देते थे तो वहाँ की जो मछलियाँ होती थी, शार्क होती थी इन पर्टिकुलर, तो उनको वो वहाँ शिप से खाना मिलता था। तो आज अगर कोई शिप अफ्रीका से ब्रिटेन जाती है, शायद वो शार्क मर गई होगी, उनकी नेक्स्ट जनरेशन आ गई होगी, और उस शिप में तो कोई इंसान भी नहीं हो, कोई लंदन में बैठा बैठा कंप्यूटर से वो उस शिप को ऑपरेट कर रहा हो, पर तो भी वो शार्क जो है वो शिप को फॉलो करते, बिकॉज वो एक जनरेशनल मेमोरी हो गई। समाज बदलाव भी ना ये ऐसा ही होता है, ये इतना स्लो होता है, लेकिन एक बार जब ये हो जाता है तो उसको रिवर्स करना बहुत ही मुश्किल हो जाता है। तो टू आंसर दैट, LGBT तो बात की बात है। आप जो है वो वुमेन्स राइट के बारे में पहला कुछ क्षण सोच लीजिए। वुमेन राइट जैसे कि एक छोटी सी बात है, वुमेन गोइंग आउट एंड वर्किंग, वुमेन का, स्त्रियों का घर के बाहर निकल के काम करना। सबसे पहले आपको समाज ने वो दिखाया था नाटक के दौरान, ठीक है, कि आप जो है वो नुक्कड़ नाटक और रंगभूमि, गुजराती रंगभूमि 200 सालों से बहुत ही प्रचलित है, बंगाल की रंगभूमि है, इत्यादि इत्यादि। हमारे यहाँ पे रीजनल रंगभूमियाँ होती थी, उसमें जो है वो कैरेक्टर्स दिखाने जाने लगे जहाँ पे स्त्री जो है वो घर के बाहर जाके काम करती थी। शुरुआत के दौर में पुरुष ही स्त्री का रोल करते थे, धीरे धीरे स्त्रियां खुद स्त्री का रोल करने लगी। उसके बाद जो है टीवी आने लगे, सिनेमा आने लगे, तो उसमें आपको दिखाने लगे कि वुमन जो है वो घर के बाहर जाके काम कर सकती है, राइट। तो समाज में जो बदलाव है वो कहानियों के द्वारा आपको एक आइडिया दिया जाता है। तो ये रंगभूमि के द्वारा हुआ, उसके बाद नवल कथा और साहित्य के द्वारा हुआ, फिल्मों के द्वारा हुआ, उसके बाद जो ये कहानी और नजदीक आपके आने लगी। तो तभी आप सुनने लगे कि कोई दूर के रिश्तेदार के घर में जो बेटी है अब वो ऑफिस जाती है ना। उसके बाद और नजदीक आपके पड़ोस आने लगे, तो वो जो कॉन्सेप्ट से और नजदीक आने लगे। और आज हमारे कई गुजराती शादियों में तो ये प्रश्न किया जाता है कि अगर लड़की कमाती नहीं है तो उसकी शादी नहीं होगी। हमें तो ऐसी बहू चाहिए जो लड़का लड़की दोनों कमाए, घर में कोई झंझट ही ना हो। तो ये पूर्णतः बदलाव कैसे आया? ये समाज को 150-200 साल लगे इस बदलाव को लाते लाते। समलैंगिक का भी यही है। 2009 में हमें दिल्ली हाई कोर्ट में हम जीते, जिसमें समलैंगिकता को जो है वो गैर कानूनी दर्जे से निकाला गया, सुप्रीम कोर्ट में हारे। वापिस अभी 2018 में ही सर्वोच्च न्यायालय ने समलैंगिकता को जो है वो गैर कानूनी दृष्टिकोण से निकाला है। सो इट हैज नॉट बीन डिक्रिमिनलाइजेशन हैज हैपेंड सिंस इन जस्ट 2018, राइट। सो आई थिंक दैट वी एज अ सोसाइटी विल टेक टाइम. Acceptance is on the rise compared to 10 years ago. People like you who are intellectuals are more open to have a conversation with me. 20 years ago, if the podcast would have existed, you would have not invited me because you would have taken a political risk unless and until you would have had that appetite. Now there are more and more people who are comfortable having this conversation. That is there. Second is that there are more and more examples around us. जिस तरह से स्त्रियों में नजदीक आने लगा उदाहरण, उसी तरह से आपके अभी एक्सटेंडेड फैमिली में, फ्रेंड्स में इत्यादि में कोई गे होगा, कोई लेस्बियन होगा, तो ये एग्जाम्पल नजदीक आने लगा और उसकी वजह से जो है स्वीकार बढ़ने लगा है।
हिस्टोरिकली जैसे अब आपने बोला होमोसेक्सुअलिटी इफ बाय नेचर दैट इट एग्जिस्ट इफ बाय नेचर, वो बहुत पुराना कॉन्सेप्ट हुआ। फिर मतलब जितनी पुरानी सभ्यता है उतना पुराना कॉन्सेप्ट हुआ। कोई ऐसी नई चीज़, मतलब आपने अपनी सेक्सुअलिटी डिस्कवर की हो सकती है, बट होमोसेक्सुअलिटी एज अ कॉन्सेप्ट वो तो फिर जब से सभ्यताएं, जब से इंसान सिविलाइजेशन में रह रहे हैं तब से है। ये मतलब होमोफोबिया बढ़ना या होमोफोबिया वाला जो आइडिया है
जी,
ये कितना पुराना होगा?
इसकी उत्पत्ति जो है सबसे पहले तो होमोसेक्सुअलिटी, समलैंगिकता, ये प्राकृतिक है। जब मैं कहता हूँ प्राकृतिक है, इसका अर्थ है ये केवल मनुष्य में नहीं बट 750 से ज़्यादा तरह के प्राणियों में पाई जाती है, मनुष्य उसमें एक है। ठीक है, तो ये तो प्रकृति दत्त है। ये पहली बात। दूसरी बात, तो इसका जो विरोध है सब, और एक इंस्टीट्यूशनलाइज पॉलिटिकल विरोध, सामाजिक राजनीतिक विरोध जो है वो कुछ पिछले 1 या 2 सदियों से वेस्ट में शुरू हुआ, जब भी बाइबल का एक तरह से इंटरप्रिटेशन इंग्लिश में शुरू हुआ, जो ये कहने लगा करके कि इट इज अगेंस्ट ऑर्डर ऑफ नेचर। उन्हीं की वजह से, कलोनियल अंडरस्टैंडिंग की वजह से, दैट जो कलोनियल अंडरस्टैंडिंग बिब्लिकल अंडरस्टैंडिंग पे आधार पे बनी है, और क्योंकि कलोनियल पावर दुनिया के सबसे ज़्यादा भूभाग पे राज्य करते थे, उनके द्वारा बनाए गए कानून भारत में लाए गए। उसके पहले, ब्रिटिश आने के पहले, भारत में होमोफोबिया, इंस्टीट्यूशनलाइज होमोफोबिया नहीं था, है ना। तो मुगलों ने कई सारे बुरे काम किए होंगे, अच्छे काम किए होंगे, वो अपने आप में एक अलग विषय है, मैं उसका निष्णांत नहीं हूं। लेकिन मुगल समय में समलैंगिकता को एक समाज में स्थान था, स्वीकार अस्वीकार था अगेन दूसरी बात है, लेकिन एक स्थान था। जैसे कि हरम्स में जो है, रानियों के अंतःपुर में, उनके निवास स्थानों में हिजड़े लोगों को रखा जाता था। आप देखेंगे करके कि जो नाच गाना इत्यादि है, उसमें बहुत सारे स्त्रीण पुरुष का समावेश था। आप देखेंगे तो जगन्नाथपुरी मंदिर में जो है 100 से ज़्यादा देवी दासियाँ थी, और ये देवी दासियाँ प्रस्टिट्यूट नहीं थी, वे प्रभु के लिए नाच श्रृंगार इत्यादि करती थी, राइट। तो ये राग भोग श्रृंगार की भूमि रही है, जिसमें जीवन का भी स्वीकार है, जीवन का भी उत्सव है, इसमें हर तरह का जीवन है, जिसमें समलैंगिकता भी एक भाग थी। लेकिन उसका इंस्टीट्यूशनलाइजेशन, क्रिमिनलाइजेशन ब्रिटिश के द्वारा हुआ, जो बिब्लिकल अंडरस्टैंडिंग के आधार पर है।
Fair point. What's the next thing? What are you working on these days?
So currently I'm working on policy changes related to LGBTQIA plus community.
What is the way ahead? Where do we stand legally also?
Legally.
And what are the main causes जो इस वक्त जिनका solutions find करना is pressing almost?
तो देखा जाए तो ट्रांसजेंडर्स जो कम्युनिटी है, उनको काफ़ी अधिकार मिले हैं। उसमें भी बहुत सारे चैलेंजेस और वो होने चाहिए, उसमें भी बदलाव होने चाहिए, और उनको और ज़्यादा अधिकार मिलने चाहिए। लेकिन उसके साथ साथ जो गे, लेस्बियन, बाइसेक्सुअल व्यक्ति हैं, उनके अधिकारों के ऊपर अभी और ज़्यादा काम करने की आवश्यकता है। मुख्य तौर पे हमारे संबंधों का कानूनी दृष्टिकोण में स्वीकार, चाहे आप उसको विवाह बोलो या ना बोलो, क्योंकि जो विवाह एक इंस्टीट्यूट है, उसके साथ साथ बहुत बुके ऑफ राइट्स मिल जाते हैं, जैसे कि राइट टू जॉइंट बैंक अकाउंट, इंश्योरेंस, राइट टू ट्रांसफर प्रॉपर्टी। अगर मेरा पार्टनर हॉस्पिटल में है और डॉक्टर कहे कि अभी वेंटिलेटर बंद करने की समय आ चुका है, किसी को निर्णय लेना, वो कौन लेगा? डेड बॉडी के ऊपर अधिकार किसका है? कौन लास्ट राइट करेगा? राइट टू किन, जो प्रॉपर्टी ट्रांसफ़र करनी है, वो कौन कर रहे हैं, किसको होगा? राइट, उस व्यक्ति को होगा जिसके साथ मैंने पिछले 20-25 सालों की ज़िंदगी बिताई है रोज़ की, या उस व्यक्ति को जिस मेरे दूर के किसी कज़िन ने, जिसने मेरे समलैंगिक होने पे मेरा तिरस्कार करके छोड़ दिया था, बोले कि आज से तेरा मेरा कोई संबंध नहीं, लेकिन जैसे ही पता चला कि मैं मर गया हूँ, मेरी प्रॉपर्टी के लिए एक खून का रिश्ता लेके कोर्ट में चला जाएगा और उसको ट्रांसफ़र हो जाएगी प्रॉपर्टी, क्योंकि मेरी तो कोई संतति नहीं है। राइट, तो ये सारे अधिकार के बारे में बात करना है। और मेरा तो कहना यह है कि अगर कोई धार्मिक व्यक्ति, धार्मिक संस्थान ये कहता है कि विवाह तो धार्मिक इंस्टीट्यूट है, इसमें इन समलैंगिक का स्वीकार नहीं होता, तो मैं आपको प्रणाम करता हूँ, ठीक है, इसे विवाह मत कहिए। अगर कोई सामाजिक और सांस्कृतिक ठेकेदार ये कहता है कि विवाह तो स्त्री और पुरुष का ही एकमात्र प्रिविलेज्ड है, इसमें समलैंगिक व्यक्ति नहीं हो सकते, तो मैं आपको भी नतमस्तक प्रणाम करता हूँ, इसे विवाह मत कहिए। मैं तो कह रहा हूँ कानून से कि हमें सिविल पार्टनरशिप दे दीजिए। Right, if somebody thinks that religious and cultural institutions think that the marriage is between men and women, I don't want to fight with them. I want my rights. If that can be done through negotiation and finding middle ground of civil partnership, that's the way ahead, and that's what my fight has been all about. And even if not that, if you can give me these bouquets of rights at least, right? We are happy with that also to start with.
When you say we, who do you?
By talking by we as in LGBT community, although but I'm not an official representative of the whole LGBT community. There may be other people and there are other voices. With due respect to them, this is what I personally feel, that I'm fine with not getting a marriage right as far as I'm getting all the rights which are very important in terms of living in this country. And second thing is, I am an equal citizen. Constitution guarantees me those rights, right? I'm an equal citizen with life of dignity. The preamble promises me that I am paying all my taxes as an honest citizen. I'm fulfilling all my duties as a citizen.
But in terms of curtailment of rights, what are the rights that the state is denying you, apart from, because मुद्दा तो सामाजिक है
जी,
और जो कोर्ट्स रिप्रेजेंट करते हैं वो कई उनके भी दायरे होते हैं, वो सामाजिक दायरों के अंदर ही ऑपरेट कर रहे होते हैं. ये बात समझे, उम्मीद करना कि सीधा सिर्फ कोर्ट से ही चेंज आ जाएगा. एक तो समाज को पहले उठना पड़ेगा, समाज को एक्सेप्ट करना पड़ेगा
जी.
तो कौन से ऐसे राइट्स हैं जो आप, क्योंकि कई राइट्स तो ऑलरेडी मिल रहे हैं
जी,
कौन से ऐसे राइट्स हैं जो नहीं दे पा रही स्टेट आपको? Can you be, 2-3 points, be a little more specific, and then let's try finding out कि एक्चुअली इसका सोल्यूशन आपको शायद कोर्ट की तरफ से इसलिए चाहिए क्योंकि फिर कोर्ट का वो पर्चा लेकर आप समाज में जा सकते हैं.
मुझे कोर्ट की वजह से आए, संविधान के द्वारा आए या सरकार के द्वारा आए, उससे कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता. मुझे सिर्फ अधिकार चाहिए. कौन दे रहा है, कैसे दे रहा है,
किस चीज के, कौन कौन से अधिकार चाहिए आपको,
जैसे मैंने आपको ये
और कौन से नहीं मिले हैं स्पेसिफिकली, कौन से नहीं
स्पेसिफिकली तो मैं कह रहा हूँ
क्योंकि व्हेन यू से दैट द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन गिव्स यू राइट टू लिव, प्रोफेस योर फेथ, यू गेट द फंडामेंटल राइट्स, बट परहैप्स जहाँ पर समस्या आ रही है वो साथ रहने की समस्या आ रही है
जी.
ठीक, अब उसके अंदर जो ऑपोजिशन आता है
जी,
इज दैट डज ऑन ग्राउंड डज पुलिस or any law enforcing agencies hound people legally, or what is it like?
If somebody is effeminate gay, right, they get bullied even today. They may get discriminated at their workplace, right? They may be teased, bullied, all of that thing happens.
But let me, because this bullied and teased, I come from Haryana. A Haryanvi person, a Bihari person, you get bullied, you get stereotyped.
Yeah.
शायद ये हमारे समाज का हिस्सा है, चाहे हमारे कॉन्वर्सेशंस का हिस्सा है, या इसी तरह से समाज ऑपरेट कर रहा है कि एट फर्स्ट until people really know somebody, वो होता है. ठीक. What next?
That may lead towards a discrimination. That's what I was coming to.
And that discrimination necessarily.
And that discrimination needs to be curtailed by the state in terms of a policy. For an example, if you think that you are being discriminated because of your gender or a caste, right? Or if you think that your rights has been taken away, rightful right has been taken away because of your identity related to gender and caste or religion, there are mechanisms available in our polity to control it and do the grievance mechanism. I want the similar kind of a conversation happening based on sexual identity, sexual orientation and gender identity of queer people, right? So for an example, if particular person in an employment thinks that he, she or they are being discriminated from any of the opportunity based on their gender identity or orientation, there needs to be a grievance mechanism to raise this as per the law, which does not exist right now. Second thing is that
sexual harassment at workplace.
No, I'm not talking about sexual harassment.
No, I'm asking something else. So when sexual harassment at workplace happens, uske andar, if a woman raises her voice, there's a grievance addressal mechanism. उसी तरह का discrimination अगर for the third gender is done, does the act, I believe it's Vishakha.
Yes, Vishakha guidelines.
Yes. क्या वो उस पैराडाइम में नहीं आता?
इस समय समलैंगिक के ऊपर नहीं आता ये.
Okay.
अगर मैं आपके यहाँ पे एम्प्लॉय हूँ और मेरा एक्सप्लॉयटेशन होता है तो मेरे पास कोई भी ग्रीवियंस मैकेनिज्म नहीं है कि मैं आपके अगेंस्ट कोई कंप्लेन कर सकूं. जिस तरह से विशाखा गाइडलाइंस एक स्त्री को यह अधिकार देता है, राइट? तो एंटी डिस्क्रिमिनेशन ये अपने आप में एक कॉन्वर्सेशन लीगल फ्रेमवर्क से है जो इस समय नहीं है. आपने जिस तरह से टेंजिबल पॉलिसी चेंज की बात कही. दूसरी बात, टैक्स भरते समय जो पार्टनरल बेनिफिट्स है जो मिलते हैं जो वो मुझे नहीं मिलेंगे. तो वो जो अगेन बात आ जाती है लीगल रिकॉग्निशन ऑफ अ रिलेशनशिप से बहुत सारे राइट्स, टेंजिबल राइट्स जो है वो स्प्राउट्स होते हैं, वो राइट्स नहीं मिल रहे हैं.
So say you want to have a joint account
बैंक
with your partner, with your partner. तो उसमें आपको क्या दिखाना पड़ता है? What is the relationship?
Right now, I can open a joint bank account, but not as a life partner, which you can with your wife. Yeah, there are banks
They cannot
like
be spousal
banks, right? There are banks, one particular private bank, which is giving, but because it is their prerogative that we want to be an inclusive bank for all, they'll say open is their tagline. I'm not naming the bank, right? So there you can. But if there is a policy, then each and every bank of the country will be open to us. Joint insurance.
That bank does not have a great service, by the way. Very poor service.
Right.
If you're consulting for them, let them know. ठीक है. Fair point. So what you're trying to say is कि ऐसी कई सारी और चीज़ें हैं जो आप because आपका world इसी दो genders के basis में या उसी तरह से divided और उसी तरह से operate कर रहा है, तो शायद third gender के लिए कई सारे rights हो.
और ये केवल third gender की बात है, मैं third gender नहीं हूँ. मैं गे हूँ, समलैंगिक हूँ.
So constitutional rights शायद available हो.
हाँ.
But अगर वो नहीं मिले, हाँ, तो उसके लिए आवाज उठाना इस वक्त थोड़ा कॉम्प्लिकेटेड है. अच्छा. और वो उस ग्रे एरिया में है जिस ग्रे एरिया में आप काम कर रहे हैं.
जी.
Fair point. Having said that, what is the way ahead? Is the right way ahead through legal mechanism or constitutional mechanism, through policy change, or do you think it's time to really invest in educating people of our country on those issues?
If any social change maker or social change catalyst gives you a answer and tells you that everything else doesn't matter, has no understanding of the social change. You need everything. So I always answer this that, look, I am a politically non-left and I am reaching out to that ecosystem. If you are a left-leaning, please reach out to your ecosystem. Just the way as I told you that my approach is about the collaboration and not confrontation. So I will ask your appointment, ask for your time, negotiate a deal and come out of it as a policy change. That is important. Equally is important somebody is doing activism outside and protesting against a policy maker, right? So I feel that in a democratic society, everything has a place. We cannot leave out anything. So courts needs to be engaged, parliamentarians needs to be engaged, socio-political ecosystem needs to be engaged, religious authority needs to be engaged, and of course society at large needs to be engaged. It's a collective effort.
So we agree on this point कि समाज के अंदर कुछ बदलाव लाना है तो समाज को ही जागृत करना पड़ेगा
जी.
और उसको करने के कई सारे तरीके हो सकते हैं. उसमें कई तरीके, एजुकेशन ऑफ दिस वेरी सोसाइटी इज वन, बट कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल मैंडेट से भी, पॉलिसी चेंजेस से भी, या फिर कोर्ट्स के माध्यम को भी उसका भी इस्तेमाल किया जा सकता है
जी.
इमीडिएट एजेंडा for the next 1-2 years for the community, what is it?
Immediate agenda is currently we lost the case of the same-sex marriage in the Supreme Court, but something very small but a positive which came out of Honorable Supreme Court is that it asked central government to form a committee of cabinet secretariat level to look into what kind of rights can be given to LGBTQIA plus community, because marriage is something we can't give as a court. There's something you need to go to the parliament to, right? So now that committee has met couple of times. They have also done a community consultation to which I'm part of, right? We have talked about this with the committee, and they have done quite a few of advisories which talks about inclusion in bank account, insurance inclusion, then hospital visitation rights, jail visitation rights, right? Addition of your partner in ration card as other, not as a husband or wife, but as other. All of these are recommendation which has come out. So tangible next step would be that because it is just guidelines, it is not enforced on ground, right? Ministry of Finance issued something, RBI issued something, Ministry of Law issued something, and all of this is nodal agency, Ministry of Social Justice and Welfare. So next tangible work for us to do would be to convert these guidelines into a policy so that it is enforced. And if somebody is finding that those policies are not being implemented, can challenge the state against it.
Fair point. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you, Ankit. You've enlightened me and enlightened, I'm sure, many of our viewers. Thank you very much for your time. I hope we continue our conversation the next time you're in Delhi. Let's do this again. But before we close, I wanted to discuss 10-15 years ago, how were you dating gay men? Where were you finding them?
So, the history of dating gay men is very fascinating. A generation before me, so there used to be something called as Bombay Magazine. This is the very first publication of gay men for men, right? And in that, people used to write, especially just based out of movement. The story is a fascinating one, right? So if you like somebody, you will tell that I will meet you at a Churchgate station, platform number 5, below an indicator, and I would be wearing a red shirt or having a red rose in my pocket. You don't know the guy at all. It was a post box numbers exchanged on that magazine, and it will be completely blinded and meet there. Or there are spots where you used to meet gay men. I'm talking about a generation before me, so I have not experienced any of this. Right? So there used to be a sailors colony in Mumbai, wherein sailors used to come, and the gay men used to also go, so that because they were sailing 6 months on the sea and they were looking for a pleasure, and here is the community used to meet them, and then there used to be a get together of community at Gokul's bar, which is just behind the Taj Palace Hotel. It was a gay hub of 1980s and early 1990. Right, from that came the internet age, and then there were some websites for gay dating which used to come, and that's when I come into the gay dating scene in my early I think 19, 20, 21 age, right? And that's how it is, and the internet has taken over, but yet there are some gay cruising places all across the country. There are gay events, parties where you meet community.
Which are the more popular platforms that gay people use for?
Currently, Grindr. My God, you can meet men just next door and be mindful. You maybe just somebody you already know and married with 3 kids.
Is that the case?
So much, right? The concept of lavender marriage is so prevalent in India. The concept is wherein you are not able to come out, or you come out to the parents, irrespective of that, because of social family pressure, you get married to opposite gender. You may produce a kid, but that doesn't change your sexuality, and after that you're cheating on your wife. And you can find ton of gay married men on Grindr very easily.
How's the scene between Delhi and Mumbai?
I think that Delhi is much more sensual, very more quick, less about commitment, wherein you can find much more people who are open towards a longer conversation and not just a quick fun in Mumbai. But again, this is just a personal experience, can't generalize it.
But how about lavender marriages?
It is much more in North. It is much more in North Bharat than the West and the Southern Bharat, for sure.
Is it because the conversations around sexuality are not as prevalent as one would want? What do you think? In your perspective, what's the case?
Yeah, that may be the case, but also to remember that a lot of people found financial independence much more in the Southern Bharat and the Western Bharat, right? Mm-hmm. With a less of a family influence, because most of us do not come from a privileged financial background. So even if I want to disobey my family, and family says that I'll throw you out of my will, Bapuji ke paas dene ko tha hi kya ji? Wherein in the North, leaving that heritage and that privilege, family privilege, is much more riskier and finding on your own. Right, so that is one. Second is because of the financial and technological companies coming in the Western Mumbai and Bangalore, people started living independent life. That independent gave them the space. I know a guy, a good friend of mine, until he was in Delhi, he could not speak a single word. Right, he got a job in Bangalore, and now living an independent life. He came out to his family and everybody while he was in Bangalore, and now everything is perfectly fine. Has a partner, living with one dog, partner, and having this cute gay family there. Correct. So all of this was possible because of the financial independence and the distance from the family.
So the social construct, he's stepping out of that social horizon that he was raised in, which made it convenient perhaps for him to
Yes.
get out. And then of course that financial independence and education and perhaps getting support from the community,
Yes.
which is around it. Great. Thank you very much, Ankit. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much. Namaste.
Namaste.
Jai Hind.